Welcome to this model. You are watching VLSI Design Lecture Series, and today we are going to speak about the FPGA interconnect routing procedures. All FPGAs contain some type of programmable interconnect, and the structure and complexity of the interconnect is largely determined by the programming technology and the architecture of the basic logic cell as well. So the raw material that we have to work with in building the interconnect is aluminum based metallization, which has a sheet resistance of approximately 50 milliwatts per square and a line capacitance of 0.2 picofarad centimeter per minus 1. The first programmable ASIC were constructed using 2 layers of metal, newer programmable, and ASIC used 3 or more layers of metal interconnect. The act-to-act interconnect family interconnect is similar to channeled gate array, and the routing architecture comprises of programmable switches and wires. Routing provides connection between I/O blocks and logic blocks, and between one logic block and another logic block. Density of logic block used in an FPGA depends on the length and the number of wire segment used for routing. Typically, an FPGA has logic blocks, interconnects, and input-output blocks. The input-output blocks lie in the periphery of the logic blocks and interconnect. Wire segment connect I/O blocks to wire segments through connection blocks. And connection blocks are connected to logic blocks depending upon the design requirement, and one logic block is connected to another, and so on. And now let us first move on to the Xilinx architecture. In Xilinx routing, connections are made from the logic block into the channel through a connection block. So, as SRAM technology is used to implement lookup tables, connection sites are large. A logic block is surrounded by connection blocks on all the 4 sides. They connect logic block pins to wire segments. Pass transistors are used to implement the connection for output pins, while use of multiplexers for input pins, and for the save the numbers of SRAM cells required per pin. The logic block pins connecting to connection blocks can then be connected to any number of wire segments through switching block. So this diagram shows the hierarchical Xilinx LCA interconnect architecture. The vertical lines and horizontal lines run between CLB. The general purpose interconnect joins switch boxes. They are also known as the magic box or switching matrices. The logic lines run across the entire chip, and it is possible to form the internal buses using long lines and 3-state buffers that are next to each CLB. The direct connections bypass the switch matrices and directly connect adjacent CLBs. The programmable interconnect points, that is PIPs, or programmable pass transistors, that connect the CLB inputs and outputs to the routing network. The bidirectional interconnect, that is BIDI buffers, restore the logic level and logic strength on long interconnect paths. And this Xilinx LCA FPGA uses 2-level metal interconnect, and the programming switch matrix allows a number of different connections between the general purpose interconnect. So the components, that is switch matrix and detailed view inside the switch matrix, are shown using the pass transistor arrangements. Here the equivalent schematic of PIP connections can also be given, where C1 is equal to 3CP1 plus 3CP2 plus 0.5 CLX is the parasitic capacitance due to switch matrix and PIP. This is for CLB1, and half of the line capacitance for the double length line adjacent to CLB1. Similarly, you can derive the capacitance for all other values. If L is equal to 1 mm, the source and drain areas are 7.5 mm long and approximately 3 mm wide, and both drain and source areas are thus 23 mm squared, and the side wall perimeters are 14 mm. And if we have a diffusion capacitance of 140 AF millimeter squared and 500 AF millimeter per 1, typical values of 1.0 mm process, the parasitic source and drain capacitance will be approximately 1.02 into 10 power 14 farad. delay of approximately 1 nanosecond agrees with the typical values of the exact delay calculator and is about the fastest connection we can make between the two CLBs. The Xilinx EPLD family uses interconnect bus known as Universal Interconnection Model to distribute the signals within the FPGA. The UIM is a programmable underarray with a constant delay from any input to any output. Here, CG is the fixed gate capacitance of the EEPROM device, CD is the fixed drain parasitic capacitance of the EEPROM device, and CB is the variable horizontal bus capacitance, CW is the variable vertical bus capacitance. And here the UIM ranges in size with the number of FBs. For the smallest XC7236, the UIM has N is equal to 68 inputs and 84 outputs. And the UIM is a large array with a large parasitic capacitance. It employs a highly optimized structure that uses the EEPROM devices and a Zense amplifier at each output. The signal swing on the UIM uses less than full VDD as equal to as a 5 volt to reduce the interconnect delay. Here there are 4 types of wire segments available. One is general purpose segments, the ones that pass through switches in that switch block, direct interconnect, ones which connect the logic block pins to 4 surrounding connecting blocks, and long line is the high fan out uniform delay connections, clock lines or clock signal provider which runs all over the chip. Now let us move on to Actel routing methodology. Actel designs are more wire segments in horizontal direction than in vertical segment. And the input pins connect to all tracks of the channel that is on the same side as the pin. The output pins extend across the 2 channels above the logic block and 2 channels below it. Output pin can be connected to all 4 channels that it crosses. The switch blocks are distributed and throughout the horizontal channels. All vertical tracks can make a connection with every incidental horizontal track. This allows for the flexibility that a horizontal track can switch into a vertical track, thus allowing the horizontal and vertical routing of the same wire. The drawback here is the more switches are required which add up to more capacitive load. So this diagram shows the Actel FPGA routing architecture. It is similar to a channeled gate array. The channel routing uses dedicated rectangular areas of fixed size within the chip called wiring channels or just channels. The horizontal channels run across the chip in horizontal direction. In the vertical direction, there are similar vertical channels that run over the top of the basic logic cells, that is the logic modules. Within the horizontal and vertical channels, wires run horizontally or vertically respectively within tracks. Each track holds one wire. The capacity of fixed wiring channel is equal to the number of tracks it contains. So here you can see the detailed view of the channel and the connections to each logic module, the input stubs and the output stubs. In the channeled gate array, the designer decides the location and length of the interconnect within the channel. In an FPGA, the interconnect is fixed at the time of manufacture. To allow programming of the interconnect, Actel divides the fixed interconnect wires within each channel into various lengths or wire segments. We call this segmented channel routing, variation on channel routing. Antifusers join the wire segments and the designer then programs the interconnections by blowing antifusers and making connections between wire segments. Unwanted connections are left unprogrammed. A statistical analysis of many different layouts determine the optimum number and the length of the wire segment. The Act1 interconnections architecture uses 22 horizontal tracks per channel for signal routing and 3 tracks dedicated to VDD and ground and the global clock, making a total of 25 tracks per channel. Horizontal segments vary in length from 4 columns of logic modules to the entire row of modules. So Actel calls these long segments long lines. 4 logic module inputs are available to the channel below the logic module and 4 inputs to the channel above the logic module. Thus, 8 vertical tracks per logic module are available for inputs, 4 from the logic module above the channel and 4 from the logic module below the channel. So, these connections are the input stubs. The single logic module output connects to a vertical track that extends across the 2 channels above the module and across the 2 channels below the module. This is called output stub. So, thus the module outputs use 4 vertical tracks per module, counting 2 tracks from the modules below and 2 tracks from the modules above each channel. One vertical track per column is a long vertical track LVT that spans the entire height of the chip. The 1020 contains some segmented LVTs. There are thus total of 13 vertical tracks per column in the Act 1 architecture. And the routing resources for both Act 1 and Act 2 families contains the last 2 columns are the total number of antifuses on each chip and the total number of antifuses assuming the wiring channels are fully populated with antifuses. So the Act 1 devices are very nearly fully populated. If the logic module is at the end of the net is less than 2 rows away from the driver module, a connection requires 2 antifuses, a vertical track and 2 horizontal segments. If the modules are more than the 2 rows apart, a connection between them will require a long vertical track together with another vertical track and 2 horizontal tracks. To connect these tracks will require a total of 4 antifuses in series, and this will add delay due to the resistance of the antifuses. To examine the extent of this delay problem, we need some help from the analysis of the RC network. So, suppose in a single antifuse with resistance R1 connects a wire segment with the parasitic capacitance, then a connection employing a single antifuse will delay the signal passing along the connections by approximately 1 time constants or R1C1 seconds. So, if we have more than 1 antifuse, we need to use the Elmore time constant to estimate the interconnect delay. And now let us move on to ultra routing technology. Ultra routing architecture has 2-level hierarchy. At first level of hierarchy, 16 or 32 of the logic blocks are grouped into a logic array block, that is LAB. The structure of the LAB is very similar to traditional PLD. The connection is formed using EEPROM like floating gate transistors, and the channel here is a set of wires that run vertically and along the length of the FPGA. So tracks are used for 4 types of connections. One is the connection from the output of all logic blocks in LAB, connections from the logic expanders, connections from output of the logic blocks in other labs, connections to and from input and output pads. So all the 4 types of tracks connect to every logic block in array block. The connection block makes sure that every such track can connect to every logic block pin. Any track can connect to any input, which makes this routing simple. The intra-lab routing consists of segmented channel where segments are as long as possible. Global interconnect structure called programmable interconnect array is used to make connections among LABs. Its internal structure is similar to internal routing of a LAB. Advantage of this scheme is that the regularity of the physical design of silicon allows it to be placed tightly and efficiently. The disadvantage is the large number of switches required, which adds capacitive load. So this diagram shows the architecture of the Ultramax 5000 and 7000. Ultramax 5000 devices has devices except the EPM 5032, which has only one LAB. All Max 7000 devices use a programmable interconnect array. So the PIA is a cross-point switch for logic signals traveling between the LABs. The advantages of this architecture over programmable interconnection schemes is the fixed routing delay. So because this architecture uses fixed number of connections, but programmable interconnect schemes use a variable number of connections. An additional benefit of simple nature of a large regular interconnect structure is the simplification and improved speed of the placement and routing software. So the delay between the LAB1 and LAB2 is the same as the delay between the LAB1 and LAB6 and opposite corners of the day, whereas the LAB1 and LAB2 are adjacent. So it may be seen that rather strange to slow down all connections to the speed of the longest possible connections, a large penalty to pay to achieve a deterministic architecture. However, it gives Ultra the opportunity to highly optimize all the connections since they are completely fixed. The size of the MAX 9000 lab arrays varies between 4 to 5 rows and columns, and the MAX 9000 is an extremely coarse-grained architecture typical of complex PLDs. But the LABs themselves have a finer architecture. Sometimes we say that complex PLDs with arrays, LABs in the Ultramax family that are themselves arrays have a dual grain architecture. So this Ultramax architecture has the same size as EMP 9400, and it has A, B, C, the interconnections between the fast track buses and 16 microcells in each lab. Box A connects microcell to 1 row channel, and box B connects 3 column channel to 2 row channels, and box C connects a macrocell to 3 column cells. So ultraflux interconnect used in the ultraflux family of complex PLDs. Ultra refers to the flux interconnect and the MAX 9000 interconnect by the same name. Fast track, but the two are different because the granularity of the logic cell arrays is different. The flux architecture is often of finer grain than MAX arrays because the difference in programming technology. The flux horizontal interconnect is much denser than the vertical interconnect, creating an aspect ratio for the interconnect of over 10:1. The imbalance is partly due to the aspect ratio of the die, the array, the aspect ratio of the logic cell and the LAB. As an example, the EPF 8820 has 4 rows and 21 columns of LABs, whereas for simplicity's sake, what happens to the edge of the die, we can total the routing channels, horizontal channels is equal to 4 rows into 168 channels per row, which will be equal to 672, and vertical channels will be equal to 21 rows into 16 channels per row, which will be equal to 336 channels. So it appears that there is still approximately twice as much interconnect capacity in the horizontal direction as the vertical. So if we look inside the boxes A, B and C, we see that for individual lines on each bus. Box A connects an LE to 2 row channels, and box B connects 2 column channels to a row channel, and box C connects to an LE to 2 column channels. So there is some dependence between boxes A and B since they contain multiplexers rather than direct connections, but essentially there are twice as many connections to the column fast track as the row fast track, thus restoring the balance in the interconnect capacity. Thank you.